In today's session, I'm going to be talking about a book that I genuinely believe can make a difference in your personal life. If you have the aspiration for more from life, if you have big dreams, if you have small dreams, if you want a better life, I think today's book review is right for you. Now, I've always been fascinated with why we do what we do and what separates the elite performers and the great athletes from the average. What separates the extraordinary businessmen and women from other employees? What separates those who find happiness and joy and good fortune and prosperity from the rest of the population? More importantly, why do we have 3% of the entire population earning more than the 97% combined? Now, that has always fascinated me. And part of my curiosity to find out why there's a contrast between the lives that we hope for and what we have led me down to studying. And in today's session, I'm going to be talking about a book that I've read and that I want to recommend. I recommend this to everyone. The book of the day is Psycho-Cybernetics. It's a book by Maxwell Maltz, Psycho-Cybernetics. It has a very unique name, a very interesting name and title, but also one that is difficult to forget, sometimes also difficult to remember. Psycho-Cybernetics is a book by Dr. Maxwell Maltz, a remarkable plastic surgeon who authored this book back in the 1960s. He was about 61 years old when he authored this book and when he published the material that is contained within this book. And this masterpiece, I call it a classic because I believe it's a classic. This masterpiece that he was so gracious enough to live for all of us has been the cause of most transformation in most people's life. A lot of the motivational speakers you know about, a lot of the super athletes you know about, a lot of the business leaders and country leaders and sports people you know about have been influenced by the teaching and the practicality of Psycho-Cybernetics. Now let's start with a question. What is Psycho-Cybernetics to start with and to begin with? It's simply a study of the understanding, to put it in a very simple way, of why we do what we do and what controls what we do and how you can alter that programming to achieve your desired results. Psycho-Cybernetics is simply the control of human behavior. Now that is a subject that we all should be fascinated about. I know for a fact that in my life that there are some times I look at my results and I wonder why I have such results. My desires are very different to the results I have. This book and a few others led me down the path of understanding who I really am, but more importantly, my self-image. So in the session of this book, I'm going to talk about a few things and what I learned from this book. Now, I recommend this book for a number of reasons. If you have a desire to learn how to set and achieve your goals, this book is for you. Interestingly, within the section of goal setting, the book deals with the subject slightly differently. Everyone has heard about goal setting. I like to think everyone. Most people, majority, have heard about goal setting to the point whereby we believe that we know how to set goals. Now, in this book, it's a different twist, something that will blow your mind away. Now, I'll talk about it later on, but I want to start by saying this. If you have dreams and if you have a vision of becoming a better person, having a lot more than you have today and doing much more than you've done in the past, then Psycho-Cybernetics is for you. If you have a dream of creating more fulfillment in your life, if you want to understand your self-image, if you want to understand how to re-engineer your self-image, then this book is for you. If you want to understand peak performance, and also if you want to understand how to limit yourself from what most people call mental block, whereby you have everything figured out in your mind, you know what to do, but you choke, this book is for you. If you want to learn how to use your imagination to create the life that you want, if you want to know how to control your thoughts, if you want to understand the psychology of autosuggestion, this book is for you. Now, there's so many other things I can talk about, but I want to just share some of what I've learned from the book and what I've applied. I've always been fascinated with the concept of self-image. Now, Dr. Maxwell Maltz was a brilliant surgeon, a plastic surgeon. He had studied to become a plastic surgeon, and he began his practice as a surgeon back in New York. Interestingly, he found, after so many years of practicing, he found that a lot of the comments and opinions people had about themselves, about their perhaps scars they had on their body, perhaps about their physical appearance, a lot of them were over-exaggerated. He also found that there were some people who had limiting pictures and images of who they were, and for that reason, all of the results they had in life were somewhat viewed through this distorted image of who they thought they were. Now, over the course of his journey, Maxwell Maltz did a lot of surgeries, trying to fix the physical scars of people. In a number of instances, he found that even when he had finished a beautiful surgery, achieved the results that were expected, when he took the person back to the mirror and allowed them to see themselves for the first time, he noticed that a lot of them were often disappointed. The scars were gone, the physical deformations and the physical injuries were completely disappeared. But he noticed that the same individuals still saw the scar. And then he came to a conclusion that just in the same way that most people see this negative limiting image of themselves, and for those who were in the other category, people who saw the good in themselves and who felt better and more confident about themselves and felt sexy, and people who felt happy and fulfilled and excited as a result of the changes that he had made, he found and he came to a conclusion that we all have a self-image. But he also said we have more than one self-image. We have an image of what we see when we stand in front of a mirror. The reflection we see in front of a mirror is one self-image. He also said that we have an internal self-image locked in our subconscious mind, and it's that self-image within that controls and regulates our results, our actions, and what we do, what we expect from life. So Maxwell Maltz decided that he was going to change his professional career and stop treating the external image and start trying to help people manage, understand, re-engineer the internal self-image. And that is the reason why we have the book Psycho-Cybernetics today. And this is really a compilation of some of his discoveries and some of his recommendations. But what I love about this book the most is it's very practical. It's a science. So he comes to the reader from I wouldn't say a scientific point of view, but from a practical point of view. By practical, what I mean by that, unlike a lot of self-help books that tell you what to do, he deals with this differently. He starts with the why. He tells you why it's important to understand about yourself. He gives you information about what to do, but he also gives you information about how to do it. And at the end of every section and every chapter, he has what's called a practical exercise. So the book is filled with a lot of how-to sections on a step-by-step basis Even in the chapter, he doesn't wait until the end to give you recommendations of things you could try so you can see results, which I think is really useful for all of us, because we want to make sure that we're learning well and we're growing, and more than anything, we want to be able to review our progress and make sure that we're growing. So in Psycho-Cybernetics, Maxwell Maltz talks about various ways in which you can improve your self-confidence. He explains why you need it, the daily activities and the routine you must adopt to improve your self-confidence. Then he talks about your self-esteem and self-value and self-worth and what you have to do to achieve it. It's a powerful book. I'll put it this way. I think you have to read the book at least 3 or 4 times. But I can make you one promise. Every time I've read this book, I found something that I didn't know was there before. Someone once said, when you read a great book, when you read a good book, you don't see something that wasn't there before. Rather, you see something in yourself that you never knew existed or was there previously. So it's about self-discovery. Now, why do I have a level of fascination about the book? Here it is. Very few of us, very few, we're schooled or we're taught about ourselves. Travel to Greece, the Apollo in Delphi are 2 words inscribed on the temple. Know thyself. Know thyself. Very powerful. 2 simple words, very powerful. I like to take it a step further by saying, know thyself and then be thyself. That's how you complete the equation. But to be yourself, you have to know yourself. To know yourself, you have to study yourself. And there is, in my opinion, there are a few books that give you an insight as to who you are, like Psycho-Cybernetics. For a number of years in my personal life, I struggled through life. I was raised by 2 great parents, fascinating father, incredible mother. We were spiritually wealthy, meaning we had the right philosophy about life, we had the right attitude, we had gratitude of life, we gave, we shared what we had, but we were financially poor. We lacked financially. What I found was, even when I had grown up and I had left home, I found that image that I had about myself limited me. And even when I found myself in a good job, I always saw myself as a poor young boy. And even when I got paid, I did everything I could to get rid of the money, because for so many years I had heard things in my environment and growing up, such as, money is the root of all evil. I heard things such as that there's so many poor people in the world because God loves poor people. And for that reason, every time I saw money and I had money, I associated a negative feeling to it. I had to get rid of it. After all, it was the root of all evil, and no one wants to have evil around them. We describe wealth and wealthy people as people who are stinkingly rich, filthy rich. So we associate words that paint pictures that we don't want in our personal life. So when we think about money, we're thinking about filth and stink and stench. And subconsciously, a lot of these started forming my beliefs about money. And for a number of years, even though I had a good job, I struggled. I still was in debt. But it wasn't until I started to understand myself, and that I started to understand that I have a self-image, and that self-image was controlling my life. Now, let me use this as a good example to illustrate what I mean. I have in my hand here a piece of elastic band, if you can see it well. We know about will and willpower. Most people say you have to work hard to be successful. However, We know that hard work alone does not lead to success. Some of the hardest working people in the world are the poorest paid and the unsuccessful. So there is more to success than hard work. Hard work is required, but it's not everything. We also know that there are some people that say no pain, no gain. That is true to an extent. In this book, and with Dr. Maxwell Maltz teaching, one of the things you learn is that you don't have to slave your way to success. You learn how to use your imagination, the most powerful force in the universe. Imagination creates reality. But very few of us were trained on how to use our imagination. And for that reason, we tend to use our senses and we labor through life and we struggle and we fail, but yet we don't understand why. Part of the reason is because we don't know how to use this God-given faculty that we have to create the future we want. Now, this elastic band can be likened to your self-image in terms of its expandability or how far it can go. For most of us, we apply willpower to achieve a goal. You and I can never outperform our self-image. We might do it temporarily, but eventually we snap back. Now, I want to use this to illustrate what's called the snapback effect. Imagine this to be you. You come across a new idea, you apply willpower and some focus, and you find yourself expanding. This is where you've expanded to. You've achieved some results beyond what you've always had. For many of us, just like I'm holding this, I can't hold on to this forever. At some point, I have to let go. And for most of us, we snap back to where we were originally. It's called the snapback effect. Willpower can get you so far, but it will, at some point, fail. You will snap back to where you are, back to the image you have of yourself. This limits you. If you want to create permanent changes in your life, the first thing you have to do is you have to change the image you have about yourself. Now, for many people who love and who understand the principles of goal setting, they struggle to achieve their goals. And I found one of the reasons is simply because for most people, they focus on what's called the to-do goals. This is what I want to do. They also focus on to have goals, which is what am I going to get? In other words, they're focusing on the destination. But the excitement comes from the journey. But very few people have what we call to become or to be goals. In order for you to have what you want, you have to do some essential, unique things. But for you to do that, you have to be the kind of person capable of doing it. That begins by understanding and changing and altering and re-engineering the self-image you have inside you. So, if you want to change your results in every area of life, you have to start within. So here is my question as I bring this book review session to a close. Look at your life. All areas of your life. Health, happiness, business, maybe education, finances. Look at your life in relation to your level of spirituality, ethical position, your life contribution. In all categories of your life, the result you're getting is a reflection of the self-image you have about you. So to change your results, you have to change yourself. To change yourself, you have to alter, re-engineer that self-image. If you do not alter your self-image and you set a goal, that if there is no congruency between your self-image and what you want, what you find is whatever you get doesn't last. So, in summary, I think this book is something you should invest in. I would recommend it very highly. It would help you understand people better. It would help you understand yourself better. And it will help you start to live that life and lead that life that you were born to lead. It will help you start on your pathway towards a much more abundant experience of life. But start today. If you can, this book is available on audio, but it's also available on print copy and written copy, so you can get whichever version appeals to you, but it's worth having. Remember this as I conclude: you cannot outperform your self-image. You will always act like the person you believe you are. So to change your results, you have to improve and increase your self-image, because that sets the boundary of your performance in life. I hope that's been useful. I wish you the best.